Hello, and welcome to Vintage Movie Nights, where we generally watch vintage movies that are 30 plus years old. But today, we're going to do something a little different. So, Ryan and I have been talking about maybe some ways we can still add some content and some things while we figure out our cluster F of a backlog of movies we have to get through. We have some editing issues, mainly on me. I am way behind on it. And Ryan is doing nothing to help. So, because of that, we have to find another way to maybe make some content. So, today we're going to do something a little bit different. Today they launched, well, when this comes up in a day or so from when this launched, they just dropped the new Superman trailer, and Ryan and I haven't seen it. At least I know I've only seen I saw a couple seconds of it, but tried to click away because I thought maybe we could do this tonight.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. So before we show the trailer, just a little context about maybe talk a little bit about your experience with Superman. I'll give mine. We'll get into the trailer. We'll kind of dissect it, and then we'll talk a little bit about superhero movies in general. And this might just be something we try from time to time to help kind of bridge the gap between our movies. Which, by the way, coming soon. We have movies coming soon.
Do we?
we,
I guess.
we got several movies in the can. We've got Falling Down. We got Days of Thunder. We've got Mom and Dad Save the World. We've got JFK. Right. So there's some movies coming. They just need some.
Yeah.
Editing sucks when it comes to this piece of it because of copyright, but
War Games too, I think, right?
oh yeah, and War Games, yeah. I forgot wow, we're really behind. But
in
on our Patreon, some of those movies are actually already up, and you can watch the full the full thing with us. But anyway, we don't deserve anybody's memberships at this point because we're so behind. But that being said, so tell me a little bit, Ryan, tell me a little bit about what is your history with the Superman movies? What's your thoughts on them?
Obviously the original from the late 70s with Christopher Reeves was my first kind of as a kid watching that and kind of knowing about that. And I would say probably if you did a consensus, that would still hold up in most people's minds as the best one. Yeah. It's kind of been redone, and we can get into that DC and there.
Oh yeah, it's gone around. I mean, this is another potential reboot of that DC universe potentially. The Zack Snyder one is dead. We can just assume that the Ben Affleck version and the Jason Momoa and that is just Ben Affleck is just.
Pretty much. There was that Superman Returns in the mid 2000s, which
with what's his name,
Brandon Routh.
Yep.
Which I think
decent.
Which I think technically was a continuation of that original series. I think. I don't know.
I don't know. I think Henry Cavill made a great Superman. I thought he really looked the part. So
in the Smallville series, yeah, that was.
This is going. Not with that character, so we'll see how that looks in this.
I saw the teaser a few months ago. I had no idea that there was a trailer that dropped today, or when you see this a few days ago, until you texted me to do this. So I'm curious.
Yeah. So, and with that, let me ask: are you a comic book Superman or a movie Superman?
Movie, everything with superheroes. From
okay.
DC to Marvel, everything. I never really read comic books, so
I would say I'm more the animated TV series. I was Justice League, watched a lot of the animated stuff. Superman has always been one of my favorites of pretty much all the superheroes. Obviously, Marvel has been super popular, but Superman has always been my favorite. The iconic score, dun 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 dun.
John Williams. John Williams, yeah.
And in fact, I was really annoyed in the Henry Cavill version of it. Those two movies, they never had that score. They didn't pay for the license for the score. And it really, there's like a moment where Superman lands and he's like about to fly and his hand's on the ground. You see the tight of his hand and the rocks are going. And I'm just sitting there like waiting for the da 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 da. But it never happens. And I was like, no. But anyway, so let's watch this and then we'll come back and we'll kind of talk. Maybe we'll critique it, go through a couple of the scenes. And
I realized I made a huge mistake there. You started talking about Henry Cavill. He's the actor from the Ben Affleck
Yes, yeah, he's from that series. It's the guy Brendan
Who?
Roth is from before it.
No, I knew that. I knew Brendan Roth was from that mid 2000s random Superman movie.
Yeah.
You said Henry Cavill, and I started talking about Smallville, the TV series.
Oh yes,
I'm
no, that
thinking
was
Tom Welling.
yeah,
Tom
Tom Welling.
Welling.
And actually
Okay,
he was really good. Smallville was a great TV show. That was like
on for a
that's like
long time.
90s. That's like I grew up like it was
If
2000s I
if this
think that
doesn't get edited, my apologies.
no, it won't get edited. That's the beauty of this. See, I'm trying to make this easy for us.
Henry Cavill was DC Extended Universe Superman.
Yes,
Tom
yes.
Welling is Smallville.
And
I got it right. I
and
caught myself. I caught
yes,
myself.
and Tom Welling showed up in some of the TV series that has recently launched on the WB with Superman with a whole nother Superman actor,
Oh, okay.
and was in a couple scenes and stuff,
I
as
got
well as and that's the other thing. And so, like a lot of people talk about DC versus Marvel. One of the big frustrations I think a lot of people have is DC Marvel. Even when they did the Agents of Shield TV show, they brought the same characters in. They had the same people playing the same individuals, whereas in DC, the Flash was played by a totally different character than played the Flash in the movies. And
yeah.
so, there was a lot of frustration, I think, in the just general. But DC has really struggled to put together a good superhero saga with one of the greatest superheroes of all time. I think a lot of the critiques is that Superman is he's Superman. You without kryptonite, he's unbeatable essentially. But I'm curious. Let's watch the trailer because I
Okay.
am curious. In some of the previews, I think I'm really excited. I think for the direction this is going. So I'll be curious to see kind of your thoughts as maybe not the big Superman fan and as more of a cinema guy. So,
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
well, with that, let's share my screen. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, ba, ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, ba, ba. Thumbs up.
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah.
You'd let me interview you as Superman.
Sure.
So she knows. Lois Lane.
Ready?
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
I like him.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for
I don't
what
know if
some
it's a
might.
lot of fire,
It's
but-
a lot.
Oof.
Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions. That's funny.
My actions? I stopped a war.
Maybe.
Not maybe. I did.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. Did you consult with the president?
Lex Luthor.
No.
You seemingly acting as a representative of
I
the
wasn't
United States
representing
will cause
anybody
more
except for me.
problems around the world.
And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die.
Oh, that's right, Superman. Oh. Oh, I love
Hey,
it.
buddy.
Love that
Eyes
soundtrack.
up here.
Ah,
Your choices, your actions. That's what makes you who you are.
Superman. He's not a man. He's an it. He's somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation. I will not accept that.
dun,
I
dun,
played
dun,
you,
dun.
but I'll go get him for you.
There you go, Mom. Epic.
You have a dog.
Yeah. So, and there it comes, July 11th. Well, there's the trailer. So just initial thoughts. What do you think?
It looks like a superhero movie.
I, okay, that's one way to look at it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, I come, like I said, I've always been a huge Superman fan. I think watching this, what I see that's so different than like Zack Snyder's DC universe or even all the ones before, it's
Yeah,
bright.
yeah,
There's not a lot of that darkness. We're not going to tell the origin story of Superman for the 300th time.
that's
We all
true.
know that he's an alien from another planet.
That's true.
I hope we don't get a lot of that. I think it looks like it's more in line with the comic books of the sense that it's,
Right,
bright colors, maybe a little campy. He's the
right.
hero for the people. He doesn't care about, government and this and that.
Yeah,
And you're going to have Crypto, who's going to be that's for the fan service, right? I think that's going to be great. You've got other superheroes in this. You saw Mr. Incredible and a few others in there. I mean, this is, to me, just looks like it's going to be a great start to a potential something special. And James Gunn does a great job with these types of things. So I don't know. I think it looks good to me. I mean, I think I'm excited to watch it.
yeah. Your point about it not being dark is something I hadn't considered. Those Man of Steel, it was the title of.
Yeah, those were dark.
It was dark, and I mean they were good in their own way. But yeah, it definitely is bright. It looks like it's maybe not going to take itself too incredibly seriously. I mean, I'm sure it's obviously going to have its moments, and
Yeah.
with the direction superhero movies have gone ever since the rise of the Marvel universe, and ever since we got the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, they kind of take place more in the real world to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Than the old school movies. But yeah, it definitely looks more bright and cheery. And you're right. I didn't think about that. The backstory. Do we need
Yeah.
it at this point? We
We
know it.
really don't need it.
We know
Like,
it, right?
we all know it. He's shot from Krypton. He lands on Earth. His Martha
Hmm.
and Kent find him. I mean, that's all. But we've seen
Right,
that. I would be fine if they just picked up the movie with him showing up one day to the Daily
right.
Planet to do his job in Metropolis or whatever, right?
Yeah.
To be as a reporter, as Clark Kent, already knowing Lois Lane. And I wouldn't even care if Lois Lane already knew he was Superman, to be honest with you. We
Well,
don't need that reveal.
yeah, clearly. I mean, she does in the trailer anyway. And
Hmm.
and again, maybe they're just going to set that up in the first 15 minutes because we know we're going to get there, right? That's interesting. I mean, there's a lot we can talk about here, and we don't have to go on and on about it. The state of superhero movies now. I mean, some might
Honestly,
say
they're down.
they are down. You're right.
I think Avengers Endgame was kind of like
The
the
title,
end.
hence the title.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it, and I just think about it's almost like there's a tiredness of it, right? It's like, okay, I've
Yeah.
seen this now. What is new? What is going to be
Hmm.
special? Which is where I think DC could get into, is that there's a whole group of heroes that people have wanted to see on the
Yeah.
big screen.
Yeah.
Green Lantern, right? I mean, when we start talking about Justice League, Batman has obviously had its run. It's been done 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Probably
Hmm.
the only DC character that's been done well over the years.
Yeah.
Green Lantern
Yeah.
with Ryan Reynolds is considered a terrible movie. Like that's not
Yeah.
considered a good film.
There's a lot you could go back on. And it's interesting to think back to 2008 when this Marvel universe started.
Has it really been that long?
20,
Fatigue was the word I was looking for. Sorry, there's a superhero fatigue, but yes, go
yeah,
ahead.
2008 was Iron Man. I think
Okay.
when that movie came out, we didn't know what that was going to become.
No, they didn't know what that was going to become, I
I
don't
think
think.
even they didn't know, right? They kind
Yeah.
of, had to find their footing. But that was also the year that The Dark Knight came out, the sequel to Batman Begins,
Yeah, with
which came
Christian
out
Bale, right?
Christian Bale. The sequel to Batman Begins, which came out in 2005, which that first one was a modest hit. I mean, it made money. It was okay. This is a reimagining of Batman, great reviews and everything. It wasn't until really the sequel, which I think
Yeah.
the death of Heath Ledger kind of amplified that a little bit, but
well, I mean, Heath Ledger, that's one of the greatest performances of a
great
villain
performance.
to this
Probably,
date, right?
even if he had lived, I think we still probably would have had the
Yeah.
same movie and the same reception. But definitely his death, like, just everyone was focused on this movie.
And look, I know we got to be a little careful here because there
Mhm.
are fanatics,
Well,
right? And hey, flay
yeah,
us in the comments. I don't care. I know there
yeah,
are fanatics out there who absolutely love this stuff, right?
yeah.
But when you think about the DC universe, the only movies that have ever done well, right? Christopher Reeves, the original Superman, which made in the 70s, which we will watch at some point on this channel. It's on my list of movies I want to watch. Like,
Yeah, we should.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I have a feeling it doesn't really hold up as well as it did then.
Mm-hmm.
Then Michael Keaton's Batman series, the
Tim,
first few, not they got
right. The
you
Tim
started
Burton.
getting into some of the later ones. There's some
Mhm.
question marks there.
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus's as the Joker was considered an iconic, right?
The first couple that Tim Burton did, the sequel, Danny DeVito and it was
Yeah.
Penguin and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, and then you go into from there. They've tried to do other things, but Aquaman has never been a very big screen name. Jason Momoa does a fine job, but the movies have been meh, I think, as far as writing. There's not much. Aquaman has always been considered one of the bad characters. Then when they did the Flash movie, unfortunately, they hired an actor who had a not so great past and future to be had. So that kind of destroyed the Flash movies for some extent. I don't think they were that great. And then really, when you look at Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, while she's great to look at, she's not a phenomenal actress. So those movies have kind of failed. They've tried so hard to launch the DC universe. I really hope that this, like, because Justice League is for me as a kid watching animated TV, reading comics. The Justice League was for what Marvel didn't exist then for me, right? Marvel only showed up in 2008 with Iron Man as the beginning of it. Nobody cared about Marvel before.
Right. Well, I think they maybe cared about it a little
outside
bit.
of X-Men. Sorry, X-Men was Marvel. That was
X-Men,
they were very popular. But
and I would say the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, which Tobey Maguire was, that kind of was a big hit. But here's something that I'll say, and I don't think there's any way you can fillet this. I'm just speaking as a moviegoer. I'm not speaking as a fan of comic books here. When these, because you talked about X-Men, you talked about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and even Christopher Nolan's Batman. None of those were part of an extended universe. They were standalone films, series, within their own thing. Whereas once we got into Iron Man and everything that came after that, and I think Man of Steel was the first one for DC, like, it's part of this. You have to watch all of them to understand it. It created, specifically Marvel just created this whole new trend, and Marvel did it very well, I think. But here's something interesting. So I did not read comic books growing up, but I would go and I would watch these Marvel movies, and I'd go and I'd watch the DC movies, and then we started getting some outside Marvel and DC movies. Deadpool is one of them, right? Not really connected to the universe per se. It was kind of its own.
They didn't own the rights to. The
Right.
biggest challenge with it is that Marvel didn't own their own rights. Like Sony owned the rights. I think it was Sony or Universal or somebody
Something
owned
like
the
that, yeah.
rights to
Right.
X-Men. So they used to not be able to call them mutants. There's very specific things that they owned.
Right.
And so that's why because in Avengers, Wolverine should have been an Avenger. Deadpool should technically, I think, be a part of that universe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Deadpool should be a part of that, but
correct them in the comments. I have no idea.
I know for certain though that Wolverine is supposed to be an Avenger. I think
what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Pretty certain.
I went with my good friend Brian McConnell, who you know, to see Deadpool. He says, "Let's go see Deadpool." I said, "I don't know what Deadpool is." He said, "Oh, it's a Marvel thing." I said, "Okay." And I went to see Deadpool, and I laughed my ass off.
It's a very
I
different movie.
thought it was so funny and entertaining, and I liked it. And then sometime later, this Suicide Squad comes out with Margot Robbie and Will Smith
Yep,
and
back to DC. That was
DC.
another failed DC. I mean, the first one was good, and I don't know that the second one did well. I didn't see the second one, so
I'm going to see the first one with Brian because Brian a little more into comics. He's not a fanatic,
yeah.
but he knows more about them than I do. Let's go see the Suicide Squad. He said, "What is Suicide Squad?" He said, "Oh, it's a superhero, super villain thing." I said, "Oh, okay." He says, "Yeah, it's like in the Batman and Superman." I said, "Okay, that sounds good." I knew
Mhm.
nothing about it, and I went and I watched the Suicide Squad with Margot Robbie and Will Smith and Jared Leto was the Joker. Okay, let's see what. And I sat there and I watched it, and it was okay. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. And this is me knowing nothing about Suicide Squad and knowing nothing about Deadpool, just being a moviegoer.
Yeah.
And I was so entertained by Deadpool and just so kind of, I probably wouldn't watch Suicide Squad again. Fanatics might tell you, "Oh, well, Suicide Squad, you didn't get it because it was based on the comics. They were okay. That's fine, right? If you want to make a movie for your audience who are DC fans, but what about all the regular moviegoers
Yeah.
who have no idea what any of this is about?
So,
I didn't get anything out of Suicide Squad. I've never read the comics.
so that is going to be a unique thing with Superman. Everybody knows who Superman is, right? So
They
when
do.
you
They
watch this,
do.
everybody's going to know who it is. Everybody who's
They
going to
do.
show up is going to
And
know
they have that
who
on their
Superman
side.
is.
They have that on their side. So
Yeah,
that's
and it's the
that's
same thing like if you did Batman, Aquaman. I mean, everybody knows these characters. Green Lantern. Maybe one day we'll get a just Green Lantern that's not the terrible Ryan Reynolds version that even
I,
he makes fun of. Like,
I can say this: when that Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds came out, I didn't know what Green Lantern was.
really?
I had no clue what that was.
Well, you should pick up a book every once in a while.
There's a
Although
lot of
those aren't
people out
books, those
there
are
who
comics.
probably are like me who
But
didn't.
no, there's nobody out there like you.
Maybe
Certainly
you're
nobody out there like you watching this right now.
right.
I would hope anyway. But yeah, so I don't know. For me, I'm left with a little bit of hope and excitement for
Yeah,
what this
I,
trailer could
I,
be.
I think what it comes down to is you hear this a lot. We can go outside of superhero movies here. When you get a movie that's adapted from a book, you've probably heard this, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
oh
well,
yeah. It's never as
the
good.
book
It's
was better because of this,
yeah,
and that. And me as a filmmaker, we're not talking about the book. We're talking
yeah.
about a movie. All right. So
Yep.
we need to take some liberties here because the people who are going to go to watch this movie, not everyone has read the book or read the comic. We need to kind of go outside and maybe change a few things. I'm not saying redo the entire thing, but we need to appeal to a mass audience. And that's something I feel Marvel has done amazing at with
Yes.
most of their movies, right?
So James Gunn, who's putting this together, right? He did Guardians of the
Guardians of
Galaxy,
the Galaxy,
which is
yeah.
considered, in my opinion, one the first two. I don't think I saw like the third one. I don't think I've really watched any Avengers after Endgame. To
I've
be
seen
honest
them
with you,
all.
I had fatigue. I was kind of done
Mhm.
with them. I haven't really gone and
I
watched
took
them.
my kids to the theater to see the third one. Here's another example. I didn't know what the Guardians of the Galaxy was.
I actually didn't know anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy watching the first one. Not a clue.
But it was entertaining.
It was
It was
great. I thought it
fun.
was one of the best. I mean, Chris Pratt is phenomenal. He's one of my favorite. Like he's a top 10 actor for me. Really enjoyed that movie.
And I just
I
think
think
that's what you've got to just
so.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I think what Marvel does well that DC hasn't done is you can't just rely on, and this is maybe the crutch that DC struggles with. You can't just rely on this being Superman, so therefore we know and everybody's going to be rooting for him. You have to still write a compelling script with a compelling bad guy that puts you in a spot where you're like rooting for the good guys, right? Like when you really look at Iron Man, the very first one, it was a compelling script with a great actor and a good situation with a great, because nobody really, yes, there was a Marvel fan base, of course, but
Well,
how many people really thought of Iron Man as the one of the greatest
I
Avengers
don't think so.
that would 20 years later or 15 years later
Right.
make you cry in the theater when
Right.
his end comes, you know?
You think Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, these are the top, like everybody knows them. I would even say if you go with Marvel, I mean Spider-Man, everybody knows Spider-Man. I would even put Captain America over Iron Man. If you
Oh yeah, big
someone who
time.
doesn't know anything about like Iron Man,
Yeah. Even
he's
Thor.
known, but
Thor
Thor,
was like at
the
least I
Hulk,
recognized his Hulk,
everybody
right?
knows the
Right.
Hulk and everything.
Yeah,
Like
Lou Frigno, man. Like
Right. Iron Man was maybe, I don't want to say one of the lesser known ones, but he definitely wasn't top. Interesting to kind
yeah.
of start with that. But again, I think they were just trying to make an Iron Man movie at the time.
They made a
They've,
good
they've
movie,
made a very good movie.
good
Um,
script, and so hopefully this follows into that where it's not just relying on
yeah.
Superman as the character to drive the movie, but rather create a good
Mhm.
movie where you have to sit back and wonder and watch and think about the
But
dynamics that are happening on the screen.
interesting. You watch the trailer and you look at the credits. No big A-list stars. What do you make of
No,
that?
I,
It's mostly.
I think it's. I actually kind of. I think it's fine.
Mhm.
I mean, of course, I would love to see some star power behind it. I don't recognize any of the characters really. I
No,
don't know who Superman is. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. In fact,
no.
I'm going to look him up real fast while we're doing this because I was thinking about this. I'm like, who is he? Like, I'm not even sure I recognize the main character's name. Funny enough, when you look at the top cast, the top cast isn't Superman. It's
Huh.
Hawk Girl, Isabella Merced, Nathan Fillion. I mean, Superman Robot is Alan Tuddyk, which I recognize him.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
don't even recognize. I know Skylar Gizondo from Jimmy Olsen. I recognize him from the Vacation movies, the reboot with the second set of them. Clark Kent, yeah, like David Cornsweet. Sorry, I'm sure I'm butchering that. I mean, what has he really done? He's been in, he's not really been in a whole lot. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So I think that's. I think that's okay. I mean, I do think it's okay if they give good performances. You cannot just rely on the fact that he's Superman
Yeah.
to do it. Now, what I saw in there seemed like he was okay. I mean, he looks like Superman. I feel the Superman character. I feel where they're coming from. I think the addition of the other superheroes. I don't recognize the bad guy in this. I recognize Lex Luthor, but I don't recognize the girl with the spinny hands. I'm not sure
Oh yeah.
what her character is or who she comes from, but I don't know. I'm hopeful that this is going to be a really good movie. I mean,
We'll
I
see.
want Superman to be good so bad. I love Superman. I'm like, I really, really want Superman to be a good movie. So guys, with that, I don't know. Any last words on this?
No, we'll see what happens in a couple of months.
Yeah, I think this is exciting. And while we have historically always watched vintage movies, maybe we'll make a few exceptions. By the time we watch it and get it edited and released, it might be a vintage movie anyway. We're a bit behind, but we're working on it. I'm working on it. I just got a new computer. We're working on it. We got a whole new thing. It's a thing, and I don't know.
Got a
This is
thing.
just that we're gonna try to do a little bit more of this while we put out movies in the meantime. So guys, if you're new here and you haven't done so, make sure you hit the subscribe button, throw up those thumbs if you like this content. Tell us below what we don't know and why we're crazy and talk too much and all the other crazy comments we usually get. And with that, do you have any last words, Mr. Willer?
No, like and subscribe, please. Help
Yeah,
us
like
out.
and
Help us
subscribe.
out.
Yeah, and cheers, guys. Chink.